Item number 1 is to hear from the administration concerning the cleaning of rabbit runs primarily on Henson, Monroe, and Elliott Streets. Ms. Lawson.
Yes, sir.
The question came about, and it was brought to my attention that some of the rabbit runs on Henson Street and Elliott had not been cleaned out. And I understand we had a problem with the truck, you know. So I would like to kind of like let the public know that we are on our job, and you guys are doing the job, but we got a problem with the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
That pumps it out. And but I'd like for some of the people that were not at that neighborhood meeting to know this is the real problem, and approximately how long will this situation last, or do we have to buy another truck if that's the case, where we need to get the administration to start, you know, in that direction. But in other words, let me help y'all and you know, resolve this. Let us help you.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd be more than happy to come to the next neighborhood meeting. However, we have been experiencing some problems with our flusher truck. In fact, it's in the shop now. We're anticipating that it will be available or ready to be placed on the road on next week. However, as you can see, the before pictures which were taken, I think yesterday, we did have crews out there manually trying to remove some of the leaves, the debris, the pine needles, and the like. But we also need the public to participate by not blowing or sweeping leaves and other debris into our streets, as well as the storm drains. That is a major problem. I had the pictures the last time we talked, maybe about 6 weeks ago, and I showed a lot of the bottles and other debris that has been blown into the street. And the same thing exists now, and you can look at the before and after pictures, and as the guys are out there working from the street department. We are trying to work diligently as far as the equipment. We are trying to put that, we will be putting that in the budget, and hopefully it will be presented to you and approved for that equipment. It is quite expensive, and it's been in the shop back and forth. I've been talking to the administration. We're going to see what we can work out to try to make sure that that item is hopefully purchased on next year. Employees is going to be another thing, and what we're going to try to do is make sure that we do routine maintenance on it. It does take a while when they're doing it manually to try to, you know, get the debris as close to the drains as possible out. But flushing it out, if we don't have the equipment, is typically, or it's generally impossible to do so. But hopefully next week we'll be out there cleaning the drains, not just there, but wherever we have the rabbit runs or any drainage problems. Thank you, sir.
But Mr. Marshall, it's up to the citizens. They ought to report. That's what I do. I call up there and report them when they blow their grass out the street. They rip it and they thing. I just call them.
Who you report to?
Huh?
Code enforcement. First call.
I call up there. I call the code enforcement.
Right.
Because one time I called the school board one time because on John Street they were throwing the leaves out, you know, grass out there.
And you put a letter out with the city utility bill explaining what the law is?
We have actually had 2 inserts this year about litter and other debris and what's against the law as far as blowing the debris. So it has gone out in all the utility inserts twice so far this year. And we'll continue to do so. All right. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. The next item is to hear an update from the administration concerning cameras at red lights.
Yes, Mr. Marshall. Several weeks ago, I contacted the General Counsel for Red Flex, a gentleman by the name of Jay Hyler, as part of my due diligence, and I requested that he provide the city with copies of all the contracts that Red Flex has executed with other municipalities in the state of Louisiana, copy of their SEC financial disclosure statement, and a list of all the pending cases that they have currently in litigation and what the status of each of those is. He sent me an email yesterday saying that they're still compiling that information and that he would get it to me as quickly as possible. So as soon as Red Flex can get all of that to me, I intended to present it to the council in executive session. Hopefully we can do it at the December 4th meeting.
Okay. And the reason why I asked that this be put in committee, while down in New Orleans for the national conference down there, listening to the television there and how down there in the New Orleans area, Jefferson Parish is used. Jefferson Parish had, if I'm not mistaken, what the news report said was like 16,000 tickets that were paid. Only 2 were contested. And Jefferson Parish is, you know, using the money to do other things with city improvements and stuff. So I'm looking at it as, you know, if Jefferson Parish is doing it in other municipalities, I think Lake Charles, Lafayette's doing it, and other municipalities, you know, why we got to be so?
I just wanted to be careful and make sure that the council had all the information they needed before you.
Okay. It's not that I advocate any particular company, but however, you know, this is something that could be another revenue source for the city.
Correct.
And at the same time, it could be make it a lot safer for the city because we don't have so many people running red lights.
Mr. Marshall, there's a lot of contradictory findings about that. At Washington, D.C., they instituted red light cameras and saw an increase in traffic accidents at red light camera intersections. They saw a decrease in citations and violations, so they actually got less citations out. There's just a lot of things that prompted us to start looking into it in terms of how they do money sharing and so forth. All the companies, it's not about red flags.
Yeah.
We just felt like we needed to, there's some studies that show it decreases the wherewithal and desire of cities to synchronize lights, which we think is a much better way to cut down on particularly intersection accidents like what red light cameras are supposed to stop. And so we're just trying to do our due diligence. I've thought that this is something that requires that, and that was something I committed. There's a lot of folks in the public, you may not be aware, that are very concerned about red light cameras. They have privacy issues, and we're trying to make sure that the way we do it only cuts across what a police officer could see if he were at that same intersection, so that we're being fair to folks. And that's the reason we're taking that time. We're actually working on it pretty hard to make sure.
Man, I was stationed in Athens, Greece back in the 70s. And in Athens, they had them. This is not new technology. This is old technology. And you've been using them in Europe for years. But, Mr. Lawson?
I'm not, I guess, a big advocate of them from the perspective of speed tickets. I think that's what we have running red lights, additional police officers for. I don't want that to usurp the role of our law enforcement officers, but I do feel it adds value, particularly at intersections where we have a high frequency of accidents, to help solve the accidents is what I'm big on. And also where crime, I was in, I think it was Houston, and the lights, the cameras at the lights actually help solve crime. So when it comes to that, you know, it has an appeal on me. I am concerned with some of the issues that were mentioned, and I think it hadn't been challenged yet, but I think it eventually will be some challenges made to it. But if no other reason, certainly at the major intersections, to look at the problems that we're having with crime and certainly with accidents, it may add some value in addition to deter the speeders and the ones that are running red lights. I just want to make sure that makes good sense. But I don't want it to replace the role of law enforcement.
Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no.
In support of what you're saying, Mr. Marshall, too, I'll offer this in support of your position. At least up to almost a quarter of all accidents in the U.S. are red light violation, running red lights. And there's estimates as high as 800 people a year killed by specifically red light accidents. And again, it's about, because they tend to be these T-bone type accidents that are pretty bad. So we are looking at that, and we're mindful of the fact that it can pick up other things, as Mr. Lawson suggested. We just want to make sure that whatever we do with it, we don't take away the desire, as Myron said, to have our police officers doing their job and to push for other traffic solving measures like synchronization of lights, which is probably the best way to prevent this type of accident. But is something that we don't, as we all know with Jackson Street, I'm going to get 20 calls tomorrow about why don't you start with Jackson, which is a state route extension, and has caused us problems. So that's what we're doing. And the D.C. stats were interesting to me, that they actually saw this increase. They can't explain why. And that's recent. That's a new study.
Right. Okay, the next one is to hear from the administration an update on crime and the drug problems in Alexandria.
I didn't put it on there.
Very quickly,
Well, Chief, you just give us a quick run.
yeah, we covered this about 2 council meetings ago.
Yeah.
But in any case, we've done the research on the UCR for the past 9 months, from January through September, and we determined that we've had a decrease in overall crime by 18.5% from January through September of this year. There's a slight increase in homicides, big decrease in forcible rapes, robbery decreased almost 60%, assaults went up about 7%, burglary is down 33%, theft down 27%, but an overall reduction of about 18.5% from January through September.
Good job, Chief.
Last year we arrested over 1,000 people for drug offenses. I add that to it.
And the next one is to hear from the administration regarding the measures concerning removal, demolition, and relocation of watercrafts on Red River, and an authorization to take action under law, including but not limited to filing a declaratory action on behalf of the city. Matt?
Mr. Johnson and I have been working on some things. We asked you to put that on the agenda. We appreciate that, to talk about it. I know that people continue to see boats in the river and wonder what is going on. We've identified several local owners. There are other owners that are either hard to identify or registered to corporations that you have problems running it down. But we're at a point where we cannot continue to just sit here and let it be, the process be thwarted because of this trouble locating people. Chuck and I would like to get permission at this point to file a declaratory suit if need be. So you file the suit against the owners known and unknown, and you provide the notice. There's a method under law to provide notice to people or to advertise it in the newspapers, and if they don't respond, it's on them. And get the judge to declare ahead of time all of the legal rights to these so that we can move forward and not worry about it. We believe that the law allows us to do it now. We believe the law allows us to go in and do it now because we've provided the best notice we can. But rather than have a rash of suits come afterward, if you file a declaratory suit, you force it up front. And so we think, even though we take the expense on of filing a suit, Mr. Marshall, we think that is greatly outweighed by worrying about failing to give notice under procedural due process to these folks and then having them coming after us for punitive damages or something like that. And we think that's the best course of action. People they're just sick of these folks being in there. You see when you come over the overpass, and it's just, you know, it's been a year since we instituted the first letter, and we think we've given everybody an ample opportunity to come forward. The local folks that have boats in there, they absolutely know that we've asked this. They've received the letters. We have green cards showing their receipt and acknowledgement, and we think that the cheapest option, believe it or not, is to file the declaratory suit, have a judge declare the rights one way or another, and let us proceed. Red River Waterway Commission agrees with us at this point that that's the best way, and in fact, their attorney, Mr. Upton, probably suggests this is the best course. I thought he'd be here tonight, but he's not, but he's told us that this is what he thinks is the best course. It's probably overkill, Mr. Marshall, but I think we saved by doing it this way.
I don't want to frame the time to get that, to have this thing consummated, because these guys have had a lot of advance notice.
They've had plenty of notice, I would say, from the time if we could get the suit up in a week or so, before the end of the year for sure, have it filed, and get our service and everything done before 2007's end, and move. Some of them where we provided notice under the ordinance, under the statutes, rather, state law that applies, we wouldn't even have to necessarily include them, Mr. Marshall. We can go forward on those now. And there are several we can go forward on right now. But the ones that we're having trouble finding, this is the best way to ensure that they had every right and notice to the best of our ability. That's put them in newspapers, advertising all over, that we put them on notice. We just, frankly, had a lot of problems locating folks, or they're part of a succession, or they're part of a corporation that's defunct, and we can't find them.
Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I move that we introduce that to the council.
Second.
Motion second, we introduce to the full council. Any other business?
Yes, Mr. Marshall. Yes, I have a resolution to be presented to full council. And this resolution is a resolution on behalf of Mayor Julius Patrick in honor of his years of exemplary service and to memorialize his ultimate passing. And this will be done at full council, and I'll recommend this.
Second. We recommend to full council. I know, Myron, I'm gonna borrow a minute or two from you.
You got it.
Lady Johnson.
Yeah.
While Ms. Jones is passing this information out, Mr. Hobbs and I were again down in New Orleans last week, and we were both taken back by the use of some cigarette butt retainers that Ms. Jones had passed out here in the city. And at the Moriel Center, Convention Center down in New Orleans, they had these little containers as you walk outside for smokers. There weren't any cigarette butts on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. They were in these receptacles or outside the doors of the building. And I'm saying Betty Jones had the right idea. I had to call Betty and tell her about this.
Well, actually, this is a national study that Keep America Beautiful is doing, and we got a small grant from them to conduct our own study here. And what I just gave you is my actual scratchy worksheet. You'll notice that on Friday, July the 6th, I counted every cigarette butt in the gutter and all the sidewalks of 3 blocks in downtown Alexandria. I counted again on the 2nd of September when some of the receptacles had been put out and some of the advertising had been run. And then I counted November the 9th You're supposed to count on the same day, the same time that you did the base count. And you might note that as the cigarette butt receptacles were added to those spots, the percentage of decrease in cigarette butts grows. So we've actually, at this time, reduced the number of cigarette butts where we've put those receptacles by 53%. And that falls in the national average. Where they're put out, smokers say they will use them. 50% of the smokers say they will use them. This is not about smoking, it's about litter. And this is encouraging that if we didn't invent this wheel, we followed the formula and it's working here, and we would like to expand it. It took approximately $30,000 to implement the first phases of this. Now, it's 2 weeks of newspaper advertising. We've produced a PSA. I don't think it's shown any on television yet. And the first step of furthering the implementation would be 3rd Street and Main Street. And Gator has talked with me about the possibility of getting it done all of downtown Alexandria. There are a lot of businesses in town that already have their receptacles, and it does work there. And it's exciting to see there's hope for us. I would like to see us have a higher standard of cleanliness in our area. I spent last weekend in Baltimore. I finally found a city that's just as littered as we are. And I had a real impression of unsafeness. And they don't have a program to address it at all at this time. The new mayor there is planning to. But I think we've improved over the years, but we have a lot farther to go. And as long as people snicker about cigarette butts, we're not going to improve, because it's really not a joke. The litter on our streets is a real indication of our commitment and our leadership too. And it's like in everything, it's a small percentage of people that do it, and it's a very small percentage of people that clean it up. And I think we're better than the way we look. I know we are. But I found that when I was implementing this study, when I showed people, I said, now, you see this other letter? Because some people here made some comment about the fact that cigarette butts, that's little. That's the biggest issue in most of the cities in our country. It just happens to be the least of our issues, of our litter issues here. But when I was explaining to some of the people that asked what I was doing counting cigarette butts, that in other places we wouldn't have this other litter in the street, and they said, So it told me that maybe there are some of our residents that haven't been other places, and they tend to think everybody in the country lives like we do. But I know when we do it the way we're supposed to do it, it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Is there anything else? Any other business? Come about. Mr. Lockett.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Call order Economic Development Committee. Members present, yours truly, Mr. Silver Smith. Item number 1 was delayed. Actually, we'll pull that from the agenda at this time. Item number 2 is to discuss the government access channel. Do we have anyone from the administration who wants to come? And what I did was I put this on here to say that it's now time to take this to the next level. And I'd like to see us get back to informing people about what's going on in the community and doing it at the level that it should be done. As we go into the winter, actually, we should have things as to how to save utilities, things we ought to be doing to make sure that smoke detectors, for instance, are changed out. I'd just like to see us get this government access channel off and running. I was at the Capitol at Hilton last night, and they have various things telling them about the community. And actually, that's something for the Gator Board to look at maybe. A little kiosk in every hotel that tells you about what's going on in the community and various attractions. If we can, Mr. Mayor, discuss where we are with the government access channel, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Lawson, Lisa is passing out some items that were prepared for you to just take home and we can talk about next meeting and look at. We would like to see this channel. Mr. Lamar White and Mr. Hess and Lisa Harris have been working diligently on this. We'd like to see this channel house numerous things from, we already have the beginnings of the Alexandria Zoo's events on it, but we'd like to see from community centers, items be able to be produced from there, high schools, Links on the Bayou, Johnny Downs, Riverfront Center, the Museum of Art, the amphitheater, Mardi Gras activities, the Taste of Mardi Gras, Jazz on the River, Pops in the Park, River Oaks, events, and Family Playhouse. And what you could do is, what you've been asking about, what we've talked about, and we're almost there, we would be able to use Peabody with its services to do a lot of this. So to the extent that KJA would be part of it, they know and have been told very clearly up front and that we want Peabody to be a partner in this. We want the kids to be a partner. There are a few issues of them going off campus and how they are allowed to do that we have to work out with the school board for them to do it. But we'd like to see them being able to film and use their room at Peabody as well to produce different items and then have those items be able to be downloaded onto it. There are access issues that we'll have to talk about the room. The room is in the council chamber, and we're going to have to be able to figure out a way to access that and be able to load things from time to time. And there's probably going to be some expansion that you have to do. There's probably some equipment expansion to really use it. But we think whatever cost you basically put into this channel at this point, you're going to get back tenfold. We know you can't get exact numbers as is indicated in that report. I think Mr. White indicated that it would be hard. We don't have Sweeps Week where we can determine how many folks are watching through Nielsen ratings and so forth, but there are indicators that determine how many people watch Alexandria GATV, our channel. There are things that we can guesstimate it, and I believe that the numbers are very significant right now. And we ought to be able to put all of those kind of events on there. There's a blue screen for more % of the time than there is anything else. And we've got plenty of things going on in this community to do. Quite frankly, there are events that Lisa has that she works very hard on that we ought to have more folks there, and this channel could be used to do that legally and efficiently.
I was thinking about, and I want to pivot after we finish this discussion into the web, which is another concern about our web site. The upcoming celebration that we're going to have in the mini park, for instance, I don't know, I had a conversation with Les Swift, our zoo director, and I know he has a lot of equipment out there, but if we have someone that could even record, as you mentioned, the little Christmas program that we have, a lot of people in the nursing homes, various other places would love to see what's going out there, and I'd like to see us come back, and I don't know who's going to access, try to see exactly what the cost is, but I'd like to see us where we can even maybe consider some live broadcasts eventually with these type programs to take it to the room. So if I can get a time frame, or the council can get a time frame and a cost as to what we need to do to take this to the level it needs to be at and sustain it at that level, consistent, I think, is where we would like to go, because when we ask that the hotels, the cable channel, put us in a position to broadcast in the hotel rooms, the intent was to encourage those folks that are traveling to get out and tour the town. So let's move with that and get a time grid maybe as to, and a cost as to what we need to do to get to where we need to go. Mr. Johnson.
And you know, we're talking about this from time to time. I think this is great, and I think we do need to put a time frame on it with the cost elements that goes into making Channel 4 successful, because I think it'd be good for our city, good for the community, and good for tourism.
I'm prepared to give you some of that tonight. I think that there'd be some initial I think you're talking about $100,000 to bring you all the way up. I know that it may seem higher than you were thinking. There are different levels you could do. You could spend $15,000 or $20,000 right now and see a giant, completely significant improvement to what's going on.
Were you including the web page in it too?
For that large number, we're talking about changing the entire way in which this is conducted and the amount of information that you would see. But again, for $15,000 or $20,000, Mr. Johnson, you could see a total different change that people would be shocked at the level of difference. And if you go in increments from 50 and then to 100, you're just talking about changes in how it's done and how quickly things are changed. You'd be talking about seeing, for example, for that kind of money, streaming. The meetings could be streamed on the internet so that you're seeing those threaded almost live. It's not instantaneous, but it's close. Those are the kinds of things that other places do that at first blush you can frown and kind of think, well, is that something we need to be spending that kind of money on here? I think it is. It completely markets your city and allows outsiders to better know what's going on. And I keep coming back to this. I see how hard Ms. Harris works to advertise. She uses the conventional methods, paper, and so forth. She uses well, it shouldn't be non-conventional, it should be normal, but the internet and other things, we're doing it, but it's not effective enough. Our website, along with GATV, if they were used together and completely thinking about them as two components that function together, and it's significant, $100,000, you can completely change how we do things.
And Mayor, I totally agree with the cost. Effect what you just stated. A couple of years ago, I had a chance to review Channel 4 and look at, the avenues which you just stated with Ms. Harris and a local company at the cost and which direction that we want to take it in. So what you're saying is accurate.
Yes, I appreciate that, Rose. And again, Myron, you're talking about it's the people's money, number one, but they get the direct benefit. This isn't something that it's not about us or anybody else. This is the people will be able to use it, get information. I think the partnership with Peabody is something that maybe people are thinking it sounds pie in the sky. It's not. If anyone would go over to Peabody and see what that institution has, they would be shocked. They would be shocked to go see. There's a talk show set there basically that you can use, and there's a complete and whole newsroom at Peabody. And those kids want to do this. They also have, they can make cartoons. They can do tremendous things. They have the ability to go out and film. They can teach their courses. I guess you call them cyber courses. They can have someone in another place writing on a board, and you're watching that being written on a board and studying in a fashion that you have in school where you have a teacher there, but the person, the instructor, somewhere else. And that's all right here in Alexandria, and I'm afraid to say that unfortunately, a lot of folks aren't aware of that.
It's one of the best kept secrets, which is, again, the intent is to get the cameras outside of this room here and take it in the community. Peabody certainly could do that. The young lady that's over that program, I'm trying to remember her name.
Rebecca Smith.
That's right. She's, I think she has a background, I think, in doing this. So it's a great partnership for us to do. And I've been talking to the president and the mayor as well. I think it's time that we have a retreat. And I'd like us to see, off time you go off and do things, but I'd like to see the retreat broadcast, if it's off premise somewhere in town, and everything that takes place in the retreat to keep people informed as to what's going on. So maybe at the next council meeting, if it's not too ambitious, I'd like to see a time frame as to when we can get this done and the total cost as to what it takes to get it done. And it's done correctly. $100,000 is not a cost, it's an investment.
We're ready now, Myron. If one member of the council, and maybe it should be you, if we can get one of you to volunteer to be on the working team, we'll put together the proposal. Okay. And we'll put that proposal together, and we'll be glad to do it. We're ready now, but it's in pieces. We'd like to get your input first before we go to the public, so we already know that your buy-in and your wishes and the things you'd like to see on it are there ahead of time. I was looking at Vaughn sitting down in the audience. She's already able, for example, on the website, we ought to be putting these RFPs and everything. We talked about the auction one tonight. All of that stuff ought to be on right now where you can see it happen. I think it's on, right?
It's on the website.
Our website is challenging too. We need to step it up a notch there, and all of it be included is what you're telling me. Okay. Harris had started with the 15,000. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, we'll, let's move forward on and get something up and going. Item number 3 is Pollyannish at best, but it's, at least we can start talking about it. We have Sugar House Road that is reality, and certainly the side. On the south end of town, James, you did?
I think he's got a presentation.
We're glad to hear that.
You got it, sir?
Item number 3 is to discuss a bridge from South Alexandria, 3rd Street, that will connect to Pineville. This has been something talked about, I think with the increase in traffic and certainly with Sugar House Road coming to fruition. This is something we need to make a very, very deliberate effort towards happening. There's a bunch of poster boards.
I'm gonna pass these out. I'm gonna let James do it. I think he's already worked up some things for you.
And this would be the 3rd bridge connecting Pineville, if I'm counting correctly, to Alexandria and Alexandria to Pineville. James Branch is going to come and address us. Mr. Branch.
Yes, sir, you'll have a copy of the small map, and I'll set this one up for you, show you the south end of town. This is 107, which I would assume you would be proposing to tie to. The problem is, if we're looking at Sugar House or Hudson, we have quite a bit of obstacles to encounter. The best possible route, of course, would be from Little Glen. You still would have the river, you'd also have a railroad track that we'd have to clear, which, you know, you can see on the smaller map. It's just easier to see it on this one. Now, this is an extension of Edgewood Drive, which is proposed. It's not in yet. The right-of-way is not even in yet. But this would be your closest route. Little Glen, 107.
Glen there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, why don't we, where the general public can see it. And again, this is something that not going to happen next year, but it's something I think we need to start moving in a direction because it
Not going to stand on it very well.
will enable us to get to Pineville, certainly a growing part of the community in Alexandria as well. So you're suggesting maybe Willow Glen, and this is our
That would
suggestion?
be your closest route, less out.
Okay.
Unless it can be worked into the sugar, you know.
That's why I was wondering if the Sugar
That's
House.
what we,
And the obstacles, well, sure, why don't you discuss the obstacles you're talking about residential?
Sugar House?
'Cause- yeah.
When you have a lake directly across the river from Sugar House, then once you clear the lake, you have a railroad track. The railroad track is closer to the levee or to the river at the Willow Glen crossing.
Talking about
If you
slope.
get down towards Sugar House, you have a lake, you have a railroad track, and then you have Pineville Craft we'll have to maneuver around, which can be done. I mean, it's not, you know, not insurmountable. But you have quite a bit of a longer length of route also.
And it's not practical to go even further south down there.
That I couldn't tell you because I don't have the areas.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
It may be practical. to go
I was actually
that.
thinking really further south
Yeah,
as to.
yeah, that may be, like I say, we acquire some area of that area, we could, you know, look at that and see, get past the plant.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. Why don't we do that, maybe just again, dream about it and see if it makes sense and come back with something. I think it's
How
something
far
what it is
south,
considered.
what's the further which you want to consider?
Whatever makes sense.
Okay.
Whatever, you're the professional.
an engineer in town told me this was, I don't know if y'all said this when I was out, but in the back in the 50s that this was originally planned long ago.
Yeah, before Pineville Craft or any of that was there.
I remember when I was a young man growing up down 3rd, and that was a concern. That and Sugar House. Talked about a bridge connecting the two areas in Mr. Charles Frederick Smith district. So now we have Sugar House in play. Maybe this is the next hurdle we can cross. But if we can get that aerial of it and just dream out loud.
We'll get something further south.
Either Gumbo Bridge.
The Gumbo Bridge is there. Okay. Any other questions on the item number 3? consider item number 4 is to hear from the administration concerning the purchase of property developed infill and for the purpose of multi-use Alexandria bus and transportation facility on Bolton Avenue. Didn't we handle that through?
We just introduced that.
Yeah.
We did. That's
Okay.
the Cooper
That was the Cooper item. I think I asked for it to be on to talk about it. Y'all introduced it already, so there's
You want
nothing else to say except that we're trying to develop a multi-use area there. We were constrained with some space, Mr. Smith, if you recall, with just one item, and we're, I don't want to say too much and change the marketplace on us, but we've got some plans that use the space better and give us plenty of room for bus, and I think Mr. Marshall is supportive. We've talked to him. We're talking about, again, infill development and bringing areas back. There's a new restaurant that just opened on Monroe Street, right in the same area, and this kind of fits with taking that little area, which is kind of close to Mansion Road. It's right down the road where there's other things happening with the Historical Society, and doing something that would, again, be multi-use. We could do more, Myron, than just a bus station. There's room to do some other things.
Well, what I'd be interested in, that's what we talked about, in some ancillary things that will help support the area. For instance, the daycare, I think Mr. Lamont and I talked about, there was some funds at one time. We had that conversation a year or so ago, that the federal government would actually participate if it's dealing with economic development within a certain distance. I'd love to see, Bill, and we talked about some things on the line as well, the mayor, where we can actually make things happen. I like the infill concept too. It makes great sense. Matter of fact, Mayor Holden told me that he was training you on all of it. Sounds like you've been taking a course on it. So how soon are we talking about this coming to fruition?
The Cooper, in fact, we've talked with the Cooper. We need to do that now, and that's why we're pleased that y'all would let us go ahead and introduce that. We're waiting on, I think, the final appraisal, and then we buy it. It's done, I think. It's a real good deal. We would be, even if we weren't looking at the bus item, which we know that we can, we would recommend to the council to pick this up right now for land banking and infill development.
All right. Any other business needs to come before Economic Development Committee? Hearing none,
You got a question.
I'm sorry, Ms.
A
Red.
minute ago, we were talking about the access channel. We wanted to see if we could get the schedule of the meetings on it, also the agenda. And it's been several weeks ago, we haven't seen anything yet.
Well, I can assure you that you'll get responses to, if the president said we can get the information, put in information. That's one of the things we have to work out too, as to who's doing what. And we'll hopefully, before the next meeting, put that information out there, and some good tips. I worry, we had some tragedies last year this time, and you know, things simple as smoke detectors, things we ought to remind families to change in elderly households, and it just hit me, things we ought to be doing, quite frankly, on channel beyond that. Elderly, not you, Harry. Anything else? Okay. Meeting's adjourned.
All right.
Okay.